My name is Isam Sroor. I'm a professor of civil and environmental engineering at AUB. I'm really excited for this session, and I know that you're really excited for the end of this session because this is the last session of the day. Hopefully it will leave you with some interesting and inspirational stories. So welcome to the last session today. We've got 4 presentations that I'm super interested to hear about on various aspects of sustainability and engagement. I'm going to go ahead and introduce each group at a time. And then just like you saw earlier in the day, there'll be time for Q&A for you to grill your friends and not be nice with them at the end of this session. So the first group we have today is a group representing the MEPI-TLG program, an amazing program. And the presentation they've got is on solar batteries. If anyone hasn't heard of solar batteries and photovoltaic system, I don't know which country you live in. This is the present and the future in Lebanon and in various parts of the world. So we're really excited to hear about this youth-led social enterprise for waste management in Asas neighborhood in the heartland of Beirut. So welcome on the stage, the group members, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well, and thank you for attending our presentation. Today, me and my friends will introduce you to our youth-led social enterprise for solar waste management in Asas, which we have called Rebattery. So our team come from different environmental and business backgrounds, which have constituted a privilege to us due to the fact that we were able to assess the technical applicability and feasibility of our project. We have Sarah Badran, a food and environmental scientist, Miriam Shakik, a civil and environmental engineer, and Janice Shazbek, a physicist and business analyst. So throughout this presentation, we're going to first start by the global challenges that face the solar waste management, followed by the ones faced in Lebanon. We're going to move on to the case of Ama Bayhoum Street, which we have chosen as the scope of our fieldwork, and then we're going to end up by discussing our enterprise. So globally, we all know that the world is heading toward a more sustainable pattern of life, and ultimately, people are now shifting toward a more durable, clean, and cost-effective source of energy, which is the solar panels. Ultimately, the demand over solar panels will be increasing, and so is the solar panel waste, in which it is approximated that it will increase by 4,000% by the year 2030 to reach almost 46,000 tons. Regardless of this high amount of solar panel waste that will be generated, only a small amount of it is recycled and treated, in which in 2019, only 17.4% of the solar panel waste was collected and recycled. However, it is important to shed light on the importance of refurbishing solar panel batteries due to the fact that it includes high-value recoverable materials such as aluminum and steel fibers, which are estimated to cost around $57 billion. No need to mention the fact that you will be saving the ecosystem from the dangerous impacts that it will be facing, which I'll mention in the upcoming slides. So, because a very low amount of the waste is recycled, the remaining amount is unfortunately thrown in dump sites and landfills across the globe. According to WHO, in the year 2021, 18 million child and adolescents were recorded to work as waste scavengers, mainly in the process of collecting the solar batteries from the landfills and selling them without any pre-treatment, of course. So, to highlight how catastrophic the problem is, it is important to have an idea about the constituents of solar panel batteries, which includes high concentrations of heavy metals such as lead, cadmium, arsenic, chromium, and other heavy metals, in addition to sulfuric and hydrochloric acid. So once these batteries are disposed into the landfill without any pre-treatment, the leachate that includes these heavy metals and acid will penetrate through the soil and ultimately reach the groundwater, thus contaminating the soil, the water, and the air through the precipitation process. This will lead to several harmful effects, such as lung cancer, in addition to damages to the nervous and respiratory systems. So we can take India as a real case study of the high amount of the solar panel waste that we will be dealing with in the upcoming years, because India is the greatest producer, user, and exporter of the solar panel waste, where it is estimated that almost 1.8 million tons of solar panel waste will be generated by the year 2050. And as I have mentioned before, only a very low amount of this waste is recycled, where in 2020, India only handled 10%. So So let's imagine the huge tons of solar panel waste that we will be dealing in the upcoming years. And when asking why we are facing this problem, where a very low amount is recycled, we come up to face three main challenges. The first one is the lack of awareness and regulations, the lack of recycling facilities, and most importantly, the disposal in landfills, because people find it's easier to get rid of the solar panel waste without treating them and paying for this process.
We're going to move now to the local context, and we're going to discuss in this section the importance to address the solar panel batteries disposal in order to avoid a crisis in the making. Looking at the e-waste sector in Lebanon, in 2021, 46,000 tons of e-waste were generated. However, only 0.02% were recycled, and this is because of the lack of recycling infrastructure and facilities, which is leading to the e-waste being sent to landfills without any prior treatment. As we know, in Lebanon, we suffer from the lack of environmental awareness, and we have the lack of the solid waste management infrastructure, especially after the solid waste crisis in 2015. Therefore, our landfills are already operating beyond their capacities. On the other hand, we have another problem, which is the Lebanon's electricity crisis. It has led to 10,000 privately owned generators, and 70% of the Lebanese households are relying on them. Those generators are emitting harmful, hazardous air pollutant into the environment, and citizens are also suffering from the dollarized and expensive bills. Therefore, many decided to invest in long-term solutions and to invest in renewable energy, especially solar energy. Therefore, now it is considered as a gold mine and a profitable business. Looking at the solar energy market in Lebanon, we can see that the cumulative installed solar capacity grew by an average of 89% in 2019. This is the most recent data that we got access to. However, it's in 2021. Therefore, to have more recent data, we went on the field and we interviewed major stakeholders, which are retailers and distributors of solar panels and batteries, and we were told that the increase in demand is 400% and 70%. They also told us that most of this demand is coming from us as neighborhood, therefore, which was this neighborhood to be the scope of our civic engagement project. During our fieldwork, we talked to a local retailer, which is Hasbani, and from this intervention, we were able to understand how the system is currently working. And he told us that the scavengers are the one dealing with this waste, and they are selling 1 kilogram of scavenged aluminum for $1, which is very profitable for them with the current economic crisis. This is a summary of the local challenges, and they constitute the drastic increase in the use of solar batteries, the failure in central governance response plan, and the informal network of garbage collectors. From this section, we understood how this energy transition is not sustainable and chaotic. So we want to solve this, and we went into Hala Fleihan Street and Us, which is our scope for this civic engagement project, and we provide an overdense neighborhood. Those are the solar panels on the roof of the buildings from a satellite image, and those are real pictures that we took from our fieldwork. And also to better estimate the solar panel and the batteries generated, we did a survey for 14 households for 6 buildings. Jana now will discuss the main findings.
So as we already said, we surveyed the people in the street and we collected the data from this survey. And then we tried to calculate some summary statistics and to generate insights from this data. As we expected, the number of apartments shifting towards solar panels increased up to 80% from year 2019 till year 2022. And as we also expected, the solar batteries, 50% of the apartments were just selling them to scavengers that are throwing the harmful material in the landfills. 25% are reusing them for lamps or for small devices, and all the remaining batteries are just disposed in the landfills that are already oversaturated, as we already mentioned. Now, for the most common type of batteries used, it turned out to be the acid battery with a lifespan to 2 to 3 years, which shows that our problem will be very urgent and will show up to people in the future, not now. So this is the right time to invest in our enterprise. this battery is the most common because of its price. It's the lowest price between all the batteries, less than $250. These are two pictures of real acid batteries. One battery of acid only can generate 9 kilograms of lead, 11 liters of sulfuric acid, and cause 1 million deaths due to poisoning. So what about 540 batteries? From where did we get this number? Only from the street of our research scope, only from Omar Bayhoum Street. If we assume that, not assume actually, we calculated the average of solar panels per building in the street and turned out to be 27, generating 40 batteries per building on average. So if we have only 20 buildings in this neighborhood, we'll end up with 540 batteries, which means 5,000 kilograms of lead and 6,000 approximately liters of sulfuric acid.
So here comes the importance and the urgency of our enterprise, which we have called RE-Battery. RE stands for recycling, and battery because we will be dealing with batteries, mainly the lead acid ones. So the novelty in our enterprise lies in the fact that we will be refurbishing the lead acid batteries by reversing the chemical reaction through a series of chemical processes to recharge it again and resell it for users. So the process starts by distributing safety trainings for people that will be dealing with collection and refurbishing of the solar batteries. Then we will perform a series of chemical reactions in the lab, as I have mentioned before. This is a picture of us while we'll be performing the experiment at the AUB lab. And this was a picture of us when a sign of success appeared and their battery was successfully recharged.
So as a summary of our business model, it will consist first of communicating with the household through our own designed app to receive complaints, requests for recharging batteries, and also requests to new restored batteries. Then the process that we mentioned will start, which is recharging the batteries. And here we will employ youth and mainly scavengers, of course with the safety guidelines needed for this. After that, we'll resell the repaired batteries to the household, also through our application or through other partnerships with existing applications such as Livelihoods Recycle. So for the cost estimation, our cost will include fixed costs, which are one-time paid costs to launch our startup, including a vehicle starting from one bus, lab equipment and app infrastructures from PCs to data tools, etc. For the variable cost, it includes chemicals, rent, utilities, and wages for labor. It's expected to be $2,000 per month. So if we want to make sure that our startup will be profitable, at least for the first 6 months before the stream of revenue will start, we will need $50,000 as a starting cost. And finally, this is a vision of how our facility will look like. In the first section, we will receive the complaints and will interact with our households or our customers. In the second section, we'll do the reversible chemical reaction process that we talked about. And in the last section, we will restore the batteries recharged until transporting them and soldering them out to the households again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jana, Reem, and Sarah. Very interesting. It's going to be hard to leave the questions till the end, but I'm going to try to do the same. So with this, I would like to welcome the second group to the stage. And this time, we're going to hear from a group working on a USAID HES project. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about another aspect of sustainability, which is equally important. That is sustainable solution for river restoration. And the case study they're looking at is the Hasbani constructed wetlands.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being with us here today as we present some of the most important topics our communities are suffering from. The problem we would like to shed light on today is the Hasbani River pollution by sewage water. So our problem is entitled by Hasbani Constructed Wetlands, a Sustainable Solution for River Restoration. In this presentation, we'll be talking about freshwater pollution as a global challenge, the impact of freshwater pollution in Lebanon, and specifically on Hasbani River. In addition to that, we'll be discussing the assessment findings, the proposed intervention, its impact, and finally, simulation in the end to summarize the whole thing. We are a group of 3 members coming from a diverse background. I'm Mirna Derbiye, majoring in medical lab and minoring in public health. My colleague Roa Hamoud, majoring in physics and minoring in math. And our friend Daniel Zwahid, majoring in business, who is unfortunately unable to be with us here today. So, whom of you know what is freshwater pollution? I would be glad if you raise your hands. Okay, it would be good to start by defining freshwater pollution, as there is a very small number. Freshwater pollution, according to Rewana et al., is the contamination of streams, rivers, lakes, and groundwater by contaminants that are not natural components of the water's life cycle, thus causing the degradation of the water's quality and risking the environment and the health. Freshwater pollution is a global challenge. And according to a study conducted in 2016, 15% of rivers in Africa, Asia, and Latin America are polluted by organic matter. Contaminants vary from agricultural chemicals, runoff fertilizers, industrial waste, and domestic sewage, which is the most important one as it has a major effect on this problem, where 2 billion tons of human waste are disposed in rivers every single day. Can you just imagine the thing? The number is huge, 2 billion tons every single day. According to a study conducted by Berman, 4,000 children die from waterborne diseases, and annually approximately 2 million people are dying from diarrhea.
Into Lebanon. Lebanon has 40 streams, of which 17 are permanent rivers sourced from 2,000 springs, while the other are seasonal. And despite that we have many water resources, actually the water quality in Lebanon is degrading. So as a result, according to Middle East Eye, 20% of Lebanon's population is at risk of cancer. And another study done in 2007 showed that 94% of tap water contains toxic microplastics. Contains toxic microplastics, and don't think that bottled water is any better. Actually, 93% of bottled water also contain toxic microplastics. So we will go through some key points in the history of Lebanon's water sector after the civil war. So in 1987, over 200 barrels of toxic waste were imported from Italy and dumped in and around the rivers in Lebanon. In 2010, the government adopted or published its first water sector reform. Prior to that, the laws were a mix of ancient laws and also French and Ottoman legislation. 1 year later, the Syrian refugee crisis occurred, which put more pressure on the water infrastructure. In 2012, the government adopted its first national water sector strategy and reinforced the Law 77 in 2018, which actually secured the water supply in Lebanon. In 2021, the Litani incident happened, where, as you can see in the picture, tons of dead fish were seen floating over the surface of Litani's river, of Litani, which is one of the largest rivers in Lebanon. And last but not least, the cholera outbreak in 2022. So Hasbani, which is our town, is 246.2 kilometers squared, with 19,000 at the foot of Mount Haram, with 19,000 residents. The main water source in Hasbani is the Hasbani River, which travels 40 kilometers. It is used mainly for agriculture and some recreation activities and many others. Like any other rivers in Lebanon which are polluted, also the Hasbani River is exposed to variety of contaminants like sewage, agriculture practices, and many more. So to better understand the problem, we did some site visits, and we did a meeting with stakeholders, and we actually concluded that there has been some work done. So we'll discuss our findings in this timeline here. In 2010, the wastewater treatment plan was initiated, but 3 years Later, it broke down and it was renovated and the work resumed in 2016. However, it stopped completely from working in 2019, and the only possible solution that the municipality could do was to construct pipes under the river's water to pass the sewage waste as far as possible from the water, which was in 2020. And actually, they stopped working in 2022, and the pipes still did not cover the whole area, so those dumping sewage water in the water.
So, after looking into all of this background data, we were looking for a solution that we can show for the municipality and the community to adopt. So our proposal is constructed wetlands prototype. So what is constructed wetlands? Let's start from there. Constructed wetlands simply are natural and biological filters for water that would help provide good quality water for sources that were contaminated. So why constructed wetlands? Actually, constructed wetlands are cost-effective, eco-friendly, sustainable, and least labor-intensive. And what does that mean? Actually, this criteria would fall under the criteria we would like to put in Hasbani, and that would be feasible. So, what is the impact of constructed wetlands? Actually, constructed wetlands reduces contamination of pathogens and microbes. In addition to that, it provides a natural habitat for aquatic and non-aquatic animals and enhances ecotourism. Moreover, it provides good quality water for irrigation and purified water for personal and municipal use. So, in order for you to better understand our problem and our intervention, we did this simulation so that you could easily visualize the whole thing. Here is a map of Hasbani, a section of Hasbani where the river passes by. As you can see here, we highlighted the river passage, and we're going to zoom in into the area where the pollution is happening. In this area, if we look at the right side, the circle, the water lines sites are private land. And the red part is the point source pollution, where the pipes, as my friend talked about, did not continue and now are pumping the sewage into this area. So from this area where the red line stops and on, the water are contaminated by sewage. So how will our intervention work? Here is a cross-section for the river, and our intervention will be implemented. We will be working on the right side of the river, because on the left side, as you can see, there are constructed walls that will prevent us from intervening. So on the right side, the soil will be degraded. The level of the soil will be degraded so that the water covers this area, and different plants will be seeded there, like lavender, rosemary, Carex apressa. In addition to that, we'll be having floating water lands that will host floating plants like algae and water lilies. Why these plants? Some of these plants have different abilities. For example, algae plants provide oxygen for the water, and Carex apressa helps in purifying the water and reducing the level of phosphorus, iron, nitrogen, and different contaminants by absorbing these contaminants through its roots. So it will be helpful in purifying the water. Rosemary and lavender will be the natural habitats for the animals and will have a beauty effect so that we enhance ecotourism, as we said earlier. Moreover, we'll be trimming some of the branches of the trees beside the rivers to help the sunlight to penetrate into the water and help these plants grow and purify the water. Thank you so much for listening. And
very well done. All right, third project with the same program, again, USAID HES. This time, we're going to talk about ecotourism, something that I hope all of you engage in, or should engage in. And we'll hear about the proposed Akroum Ecotourism Eco-Trail in North Lebanon, promoting ecotourism for local economic development. So please go ahead, all ears.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for making it to the fourth panel of today's conference. My name is Isra Diab. I'm a senior computer science student. Today, I'm honored to present, along with my teammates, our community service project entitled Akroum Eco-Trail. The purpose of this project is to promote ecotourism for local economic development in Akroum village. Before going into the details of our project, let me please introduce you to our team. So we are 5 USAID scholars from different major and expertise, mainly engineering and business. What gathered us to work on this project specifically is the passion that we have to serve our community in Akkar, and the fact that we are all living in Akkar district, so we share the same experience in terms of the social and economic life. So in our presentation, we will talk about ecotourism globally. We will talk about tourism in Lebanon. Then we're going to have a detailed discussion about Akroum, which is like I believe many of you don't know about it. And finally, we will share our project intervention.
So now introducing the ecotourism sector. What is exactly ecotourism? Ecotourism is a nature-based activities that enhance the livelihood of local communities and promote the conservation of natural and cultural areas. It is coined back in the 1965 by Klaus Dieter Hetzer. It is a form of responsible tourism. It is considered as one of the fastest growing travel sectors, and it had up to 30% of growth rate back to during the 2010s, and it represents up to 4% of the international tourism sector. And now I will move on to the 5 core elements of ecotourism, which are economic benefit, environment protection, education, cultural acceptance, and community empowerment. And now I will leave the floor to my colleague Hadil to talk more about the ecotourism sector and in Lebanon.
So let's talk about ecotourism in Lebanon. First, generally, tourism accounts for 7% of the total GDP, and it's considered as the top source of income and employment. And after the war, the development of the sector was fragmented since fundings were given to areas more than others. And despite the fact that the government knew its importance and priority as a source for income, no real action have been made till today. As for the national challenges that hinder its development, we have environmental degradation due to urban development, insufficient infrastructure, lack of sustainable practices, and political insecurity concerns. Despite all these challenges, we emphasize on the fact that tourism is a solution in order to improve the economic situation in Lebanon, as it's still an active sector. Okay, now I will leave the floor to Sahar.
Thank you, Hadil. Now we will come to the most interesting part of our presentation. I will introduce to you a small village located in Akkar, North Lebanon, which is Akroum with an altitude of approximately 1,087 meters above the sea level and a population of around 400 residents. Akroum, the name Akroum actually refers to a mountain that includes 7 villages, one of which is also called Akroum. Akroum is a place rich of history and heritage, and it has been a home for many civilizations throughout history, including Phoenicians and Romans. Okay, visitors to Akroum can explore similar archaeological sites in Akroum. For example, Al-Hussein Castle, which is one of the most significant archaeological sites in Akroum, and it overlooks the Wadi As-Saba. Wadi As-Saba, which is also one of the most significant archaeological sites, and it includes ancient tombs and rock panels. Thank you.
So out of this beauty comes our intervention. In order to better assess the situation, we started with interviewing our stakeholders such as Abdelaziz El Zain, Mr. Ali Isper, who is a former mayor, and Mr. Khaled Talib, who is the founder of Akroum Trail. And also we did some surveys for the people of Akroum, and we found a great potential from its people to do an eco-trail in their area. However, we found some challenges such as the poor infrastructure, the need for repair, such as also harmful practices like campfires, and so.
Thank you, Hadil. To implement our project, first, we're going to invest in existing natural and cultural heritage. We're going to develop a sustainable tourism experience in Akroum. We're going to promote the trail model in Akroum, which obviously going to create an economic, sustainable economic and improve the living condition in Akroum. First of all, to implement our project, which is based on 5 main activities. First, improve pathways. We're going to improve the pathways in Akroum by putting signs, maps, and boards along the trail. Second, we're going to create job opportunity for youth by training youth to work as guide on the trail. Third, we're going to promote local businesses in Akroum because visitors, we're going to buy a local product from Akroum, such as Munit Imrabia. Fourth, we're going to link Akroum Trail to the already existing trail in Akkar, such as Darb Akkar and Mountain Lebanon, to ensure the sustainability of the trail in Akroum. Lastly, we're going to market Akroum Trail on social media because if anyone search about Akroum, will not find any information about the trail.
Thank you, Muhammad, for giving us all this information about our project. So now, as you know, what is our project and what are the activities that we will be working on, it's the time to take you for a virtual trip to Akroum, where we will tell you about our business plan. So you can see on this map, we highlighted a few locations which are mainly economic resources in Akroum, such as the restaurants, cafes, and snacks, for example. And as we mentioned earlier, we're going to be investing in the ecotourism sites to activate these economic resources and definitely create new ones. So our focus will be on this area in Akroum, which includes Wadi Saba and Al Hussein Castle, which we told you about their importance already. So there is actually a trail that exists along Wadi Saba, but it needs a lot of improvements and definitely marketing. So, for example, here it includes this rock panel, which is for Nabuchad Nasser, which is very historical, which is a very historical site, but it's not being highlighted. So, let's see what is the experience that would wait for people who would visit this location. Okay, so there's a video that has to start. Okay, so this is our virtual trip now. If we zoom in, we're gonna find this already existing trail, and along the way, people can see the river, which pass the valley. They can see also the water source. They can enjoy the natural beauty and discover new plants. Also, they would see different kinds of trees and planets. Here they can see the caves. Okay, other kind of caves they can see. Okay, but you can see here on the map that the trail stops at the end of Wadi Saba, and actually Al Hussein Castle is actually close to this location, but it's not being connected to this trail. So this is one of the main objectives in our project, is to connect Wadi Saba to Al Hussein Castle to better invest in this sector and attract more tourists. Okay, so finally, definitely we won't achieve these goals without partnering with local communities to ensure the sustainability of our projects. That's why we will be collaborating with the municipality, with Luthiad initiatives, and Darb Akkar team, which is a very active team there. Thank you so much for listening. And hopefully فينا ناخدكم على أكروم تاكلوا مناقيش.
Sold. All right. Thank you so much, Hadil and Co. I know only Hadil. She was in my class. Amazing. All right. I think time has come for us to go through the last presentation today. A MEPI-TLG project this time. And we're all ears to hear about Herafi, which is a platform that is proposed for equitable access to the creative market.
Hello guys, thank you for having us today with you. It's been really an honor, and like listening to your ideas, they're amazing, and kudos to your amazing work. So today we're going to present to you our project that we've been working on, Herafi, a platform for equitable access to the creative market. In this presentation, I'm going to present to you my team, the global sector, the national manifestation of the problem we're trying to solve, our intervention, and the localization of our intervention. So I'm Hussam, I'm from Tunisia, and I study economics and business at IUB. This is my colleague, Diye. He's studying computer science, and he's an artist himself. Our colleagues, Luay, Rafiq from Algeria, and Zakaria from Morocco. Unfortunately, they couldn't be with us today to present, so yeah. Unfortunately, in this world, we are facing countless issues. But there is one particular sector that seems untapped, is the creative market. Growing up in Tunisia, we had a place called Al-Medina Al-Arabi, which is a traditional city that is a hub for creativity, antiquity, and art. However, after the Tunisian revolution, the number of tourists coming into the country were significantly reduced. And so they were supporting this sector, and so many businesses closed. And the COVID-19 pandemic even worsened the situation. So my team decided to work on solving the problems that this particular sector is going through. But we're talking about the creative economy. So you might be asking yourselves, what is it? Well, it doesn't have a single definition, but I can tell you is that it's the totality of businesses that are working in creating and providing artistic, innovative products and services. To conceptualize this sector in terms of numbers, we need to understand that it's been considered as an economic discipline since 1960. It's been generating around $2 trillion of revenues each year, creating 50 million jobs, and it's considered the single biggest youth employer in the world. In the developing country, it has the potential to create sustainable, resilient, and inclusive jobs to millions of people, thus creating a pathway out of poverty for them. However, during our research, we discovered some key statistics that we want to share with you. Did you know that less than 2% of the globally recognized artists are from the MENA, and less than 1.5% of the artists whose work are displayed in global art galleries are from our region? We continued our research, and we interviewed many artists in our region, from Lebanon to Algeria to Yemen, and they all agreed on one thing. You cannot produce art if you have financial instability, and you cannot be financially stable if you do not produce art. We further interviewed stakeholders in the industry, and they all echo the same concern, emphasizing on the financial struggles and also the lack of development of the infrastructure in the region. And they also called for the implementation and the employment of technology to help artists sell their work. The creative economy in Lebanon, it's a promising field because because it employs around 10,000 people and it provides millions of dollars in revenues each year. In 2015 alone, it provided around $400 million. However, this bulk of revenues is not soaked by the emerging and aspiring artists. It's soaked rather by the big players. And like any other sector in Lebanon, it's not sheltered from the economic hurdles that are facing our world. Because of the economic and financial instability the country and the region have been going through, the artists are not able to access funds and training opportunities, enable them thus to access untapped markets. So what is the state doing? Well, unfortunately not much. Simply because 1% of the national budget is allocated to the Ministry of Culture. The NGOs, however, they're doing great work. They're trying to support artists by providing them with art supplies. They're also trying to allow them to access a network of artists. However, they cannot continue carrying this sector on their backs simply because we need sustainable investment in this sector. I leave the ground now to my colleague Dia.
Okay, so we have chosen Beirut, Lebanon specifically as a starting point for our intervention, and that is due to multiple reasons. So the first reason is that most of the NGOs that support artists in Lebanon are based in Beirut specifically. Second reason is that Beirut has the potential to position itself as a emerging global art city owing to its diverse art, and rich art scene and cultural institutions that showcase local artworks. However, due to the multidimensional and protracted crisis that has hit Lebanon during the past years, the art scene has been placed at the bottom of the priority list for international funding. So we have reached out to multiple organizations to ensure the success of our intervention. And at the top of the list, we have reached out to AFAQ, and that is due to their unwavering and tremendous support for artists, intellectuals, writers, and people who work in the creative sector in Lebanon. So you may be asking, who is our beneficiary community? So we are trying to target independent artists that come from low socioeconomic backgrounds, those that have left the profession due to financial instabilities, and those who, and most importantly, those who lack exposure to showcase their work. So it is now clear that in order to transform the art scene in Lebanon and in the region in general, we have to turn these challenges into opportunities. And therefore, this is exactly where our solution comes in. So I'm really excited to introduce you to our intervention, our pilot intervention called Herafi. So it is basically a platform that enables artists from the MENA region to showcase their artworks and connect them with potential buyers, both locally and internationally. So it comes in the form of an application available to both Android and iOS users. And as a matter of fact, we have already built the beta version of the application, and it will be published very soon. And in a few slides, we'll be showing you a quick demo. So currently, we are in the pre-launch phase. So we will be organizing focus groups through our partnership with AFAQ. In the second phase, when we launch, we will be onboarding the first group of artists on our application, so we basically publish their artworks. And in the post-launch phase, we will be updating our platform and making sure that the overall experience is even better through gathering feedback from users, as in artists and buyers. So what do artists benefit from our application? Well, simply put, they get to sell their artwork without intermediaries, which gains them more financial independence. It also gains them, they gain more exposure to the global art scene. And finally, it gets to relieve them from the burden of the process of packaging, submitting a delivery request, and setting a bank account and so on. So Herafi takes care of all of that. So this is a comprehensive diagram of how our user-friendly application will be working from both the perspective of the artist and the perspective of the buyer. We will be looking at it under a more practical lens shortly.
So you might ask yourself, what's the potential social impact of our intervention? Well, it will not only enable artists to showcase their creative art to the world, but it will also create sustainable jobs that will reduce unemployability in the region, and it also promote the rich and diverse art and cultural scene in the MENA region.
So on the right side of this slide, you can see some footage from an actual footage from the application Herafi, and it is displayed in Arabic, since the application supports both English and Arabic languages. So Herafi, a platform for more inclusive creative industry in the region. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dia and Hussam. Very interesting and inspirational. Okay, if you bear with me, I think we have another 10 minutes or so that I'm really excited for, because I have a bunch of questions, but I will limit myself. I'll start first by giving you a chance to ask questions to any of the four groups, and if not, I'll jump in with my questions.
First of all, shout out to all four teams. I really enjoyed your presentations, and thank you very much. However, I do have a small comment on for both Team 1 and Team 2, and I have a question for Team number 3. For Team number 1 and number 2, first of all, loved your presentation. Thank you for caring for our environment. However, I do have a small and I think a very important suggestion. I really wish you were a bit more careful with the pictures you chose on the presentation, as it displayed people on like unpleasant situations. However, overall, lovely presentation. As for team number 3, I saw that you're planning to take tourists on a trial throughout the road all across the area, crossing through archaeological sites. And as I was seeing the slide that included the challenges that could face the project, I didn't see anything related to the cultural preservation of the archaeological sites. So how are you planning to protect the archaeological sites, especially that tourism can cause really harmful effects on the archaeological finds?
Okay, so thank you for your question. You highlighted a very important point. We will consider that during the training that we will provide to the youth, as we will train them to work as tourist guides. So part of this training will highlight the importance of preserving these sites and making sure that tourists won't do any harmful practices, because actually this is one of the problems that we're trying to solve, actually. Thank you so much.
Super interesting, just like all the 3 others, and thank you so much. I think it's a great step towards democratizing art, especially in our world, in the Arab world, North Africa and the Middle East. So really my question to you is more on, out of curiosity, if knowing that all of you come from North Africa, were there lessons, inspirational lessons that you could you know of from Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco that could be transferable to our to Lebanon here? So that's a little bit away from the app. And the answer may be no.
Actually, yeah, as part of our work, we had to interview artists from the region, maybe in Yemen and Algeria, and or in Lebanon, and they all emphasize, especially the emerging ones, they all emphasize that there is a demand for art, and people are interested in their work, but the lack of exposure to networks, the lack of support they have, it doesn't allow them to reach the number of buyers or reach they want to reach, and that would create a problem for them to have a sustainable living. Yeah. But also, I can tell you that despite everything, they're engineering their way through every crisis. For example, we interviewed a small gallery owner, and he told in Lebanon, and he told us during summer the expected number of tourists is 2 million.
Yeah.
So he needs to, and he's expecting them to go to Jbel. So he will relocate in summer to go to Jbel, and to have the number of tourists buy from his work.
Makes sense. I guess my question was more on. Is the situation in North Africa, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco similar to what we're going through in Lebanon with regards to the art scene and where the kind of things artists face and the potential that is not being reached for artists? I'm just out of curiosity.
Yeah, it's basically the same structure on different levels, same problems on different dimensions. It's a different, let's say, like, for example, if you compare the economic scene or like the cultural scene, you have the gallery, for example. In Tunisia, also the art is only displayed in galleries, and you have special galleries for art. Here in Lebanon, you only see art displayed in galleries, and you feel like it's an elitist view. But also, we have like the same scene happens both countries. For example, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, or Lebanon, where they all face the same problem, which is how can I put my work out there? Yeah. So the same level of problems and the same type of problems is appearing, but on different levels.
Got you. Maybe separately, I'll ask you for advice on Tunisia. I'll be there in a couple of weeks.
But one point, there is a staggering lack of data on this subject.
Right.
Like, for example, when we obtained how much revenue is generated every year, the most recent data we had is 2015. Even the number of artists that are displayed worldwide, we had to calculate them. For example, we go into the top galleries, we go to the artists, we scrape through the artists, and we find who's from MENA. For example, 1 in 100 artists are from the MENA. Right. So the organizations or like the infrastructure, they're not interested. Yeah.
Very good.
And also, across the spectrum, our ministries, like the Ministry of Culture in Tunisia or like in Lebanon, they all have the same budget issues. Like around 5% of the budget is allocated to that.
Best. All right. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Okay, so mainly it's not a question, but rather like a comment, especially for the Hirafi team. Because for example, Dia is my classmate or my colleague in the major. And I saw the passion they put him, as well as he's not with us now, the passion they put in the project. So it's really inspiring, and I invite all the sophomores as well as the juniors to take this opportunity to participate or to take the opportunity to benefit from the projects that are presented today. And as the event is coming to an end, I would like to thank the Center of Civic Engagement for this amazing forum. Saraha, I enjoyed it a lot. I presented early morning, and now the forum is coming to an end, and I'm attending all the panels. It's pretty interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Indeed, it's a great way of ending the day and the journey for many of you here at AU. I do have a question maybe for group number 2, the Hasbani team. I think you're trying to address the problem at a later stage. The pollution is taking place, and what do you do about it? And you're proposing wetland as a solution, which is great. My question to you is, have you looked a little bit on what could be done upstream? You're talking about a river, meaning reduction in the pollution. What can be done to work with communities to reduce the amount of pollution that is discharged into Hasbani before it gets to your town of Hasbani?
Okay, so actually the problem is that the sewage water that comes into the Hasbani River is not just from Hasbaya, it comes from all the towns in the surrounding. But there is no chance for the other towns to do an alternative solution but dumping the sewage into the common line. So because that was constructed years back ago, and there's no way, because they are all above Hasbaya, and naturally by gravity they have to bring things down into a way to Hasbaya. So they're going to end into a common line from the whole towns. So that's not a possible solution. So we have to treat the case after it.
Basically, the wastewater network is not complete in the area. So you kind of have to dump into nature.
Yeah.
There is no.
Yeah. Okay. Or actually, we can find a solution in order not to dump into nature, but because of lack of capital, that's what is happening at this point.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And maybe a question to group number 1. A little comment. The street is called Bayhum, not Bayhum. Small difference. The question is on the batteries. I mean, and you kind of look at multiple aspects of sustainability there. I think PV as a solution, and then waste, dealing with that. And if we focus on the waste, I was wondering if you've looked into batteries, in general batteries, not just solar batteries. Like there's a lot of recycling that does take place with batteries, car batteries, small batteries, big batteries, and so on and so forth. They take them apart, they take pieces, and they salvage a lot of them. I'm wondering if you had a chance to look a little bit into this. What is being done here in Lebanon, elsewhere around the world? There may be a lot of lessons there. And then second quick question, when you said that you have a plan for the acid-based batteries, for recycling them once you do some treatment, how long will the expected life be once it's recycled?
Okay, so for the first question, we already did a research about e-wastes in general, how they are disposed in the landfill, what is the percentage of the batteries that are disposed. However, for the treatment, after a lot of interventions with companies, and we found that the batteries in general, there are companies or parties that are recycling these batteries or are trying to collect them and treat them. However, for the solar panels batteries, there is no one collecting even these batteries. And the only collector, which is Livelihoods Recycle, which collects these batteries, are just, the batteries are just there, and no one is getting the batteries from their place. So we decided to focus on specifically the solar panels batteries. And for the second question, the battery will, as our prototype showed, it will work with 80% efficiency. How much the lifetime? It depends on the use, on many factors, but for the efficiency, 80% efficient. That's why we will sell it with lower price, more affordable price, but at least will reduce the harm that...
It's a little comment rather than a question. I'm curious about if you do the analysis on other types of batteries, solar batteries also. There's the gel type and then there's the lithium type. The lithium type is supposed to last 3 to 4 times, but at the end of its life, I don't know which is more recyclable. It'll be interesting to look into that.
We looked at that actually. We also spoke with the retailers for batteries. They told us that the gel and lithium batteries are more easily recyclable than the acid batteries. But the acid batteries are hard to recycle, and also because this is the most common type of batteries that, as we showed in the statistics, that turned out to be used because they are the cheapest.
Yeah, shortest lifetime. Well, I think we went over time, so if there's any last-minute pressing question, please go ahead. Otherwise, would like to thank everyone, thank the presenters for wonderful, insightful presentations, and wish you all success.